the Non-Breaking Space Show from Austin, Texas. I'm the internet's Christopher Schmidt. And on today's show, we are rejoined with Simon St. Laurent, the content manager at LinkedIn Learning. This week, we talk about Facebook privacy, Apple stepping out of the router business, Avengers becoming the most bankable movie franchise, and much, much more. Before we get started, some things I'd like you to know. The UX Design Newsletter is a weekly list of articles, tutorials, and inspiration handpicked by me. Sign up at uxdesignnewsletter.com and have the best links of the week sent to your email. Speaking of email, you can set it and forget it with a Non-Breaking Space show. So whenever a new show is ready, you'll be notified in your inbox. All you have to do is sign up at newsletter.nonbreakingspace.tv. And did you know that we have a YouTube channel? Yeah, we do. We got one of those. Watch our show unedited episodes at youtube.com/nonbreakingspace show, all one word. If you hear about a site or resource on this episode, chances are you'll find a link in the episode at the nonbreakingspace.tv website. Be sure to follow me, Christopher, on Twitter at Teleject, TELEJECT. You can join for my attempts to be funny or my blatant typos, whichever one makes you laugh the most. As always, thank you for telling others about Not Breaking Space and finding us on the Apple website for iTunes and podcast flavors. Now, on with the show. Well, yeah. So it's been a while since my last episode. I'm not sure. Well, you're actually there on my last episode. We talked about self-driving cars. I think that was awesome. We squeezed that in during Thanksgiving, and I've actually pointed to people, like I told Nerd, was like, because people talk about self-driving cars, and I think there's been another accident since we last talked, where some I think it was a woman got. I haven't had the guts to see the video.
No, I'm not watching the video.
Yeah, I'm not watching the video, but I think it was like someone, like the car technology wasn't expecting this person to walk out at the last second or something like that. I'm not really sure.
A lot of the technology was switched off. I don't know. I mean, I liked it better on the last call because the best way to do these things is for people who know a lot more than me to be on the call, and that worked great.
Yeah. So anyway, so things have happened since then, but that raised up a whole lot of discussions. And so I was able to be told Nerds oh, you should listen to my podcast. Here's our episode about self-driving cars, and so I was like, oh, right, cool, that's pretty nice. But yeah, so that was the last episode about that. Yeah, I took a break, took a hiatus. I had some medical issues I had to take care of.
You look great. You sound great.
Oh, awesome! Well. Thank you. I have no idea how I sounded before, but I knew that. The last time I had a chance to do a 5K, which I do not break any land speed records, I passed the last second because I just felt like there was no way I could finish it. Much less I felt like I could die trying to accomplish it. So I said no, I'm going to pass on this one. And so I had surgery over the holiday break and just learning to say no to a lot of projects, a lot of things. And
saying no is good.
Yeah, and I've not really mastered that at all. So, but I'm still getting there. I've said no to a lot of things. I'm saying no to a lot more things in the future. But, and where was I going? Oh, and so basically I did a 5K a couple weeks ago, which is amazing considering I had major surgery in early December, and I came in dead last. Perfect. But I did not die, so that was that was the win, and so it was really humbling because it was at no one was at the finish line except for my family. That was pretty funny. It was there was no, everyone had moved on. They had actually moved on to the award ceremony, to another place in the venue, and so but no one was there. I mean, the clock was there telling me how slow I was, and everything at the end. My family was cheering me on, so. That was fun. So, but
had a very select audience.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't. These are the people I would invite to my watch me slob and sweat down the finish line. So yeah, but yeah. So, how have you been since we last talked?
Busy. But
besides irate, last 2 days or a few days.
Yeah, I'm good at irate sometimes.
But yeah, how the holidays? How was everything?
The The holidays were great. I've been celebrating that I've been mostly at home. It's really like amazing to step further away from travel and further away from travel. April was a little crazy because I had 2 trips in consecutive weeks, but one of them was for fun and one of them was for work. So I can't even blame work for that. It was my weird scheduling. So now it looks like I don't have another business trip till August. I'm very happy and very confused. So it's good. Well, get to see things. Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Well, that's pretty good. So, and then, and then also you've had the amazing snow that never ends. The winter never ends, right?
It just lurched from winter into summer. It's like 83 right now, and I would like my snow back, please. Right. So,
I just had a meeting with someone who's in New Jersey, and it's like 80 degrees right now as well. So, it's like,
my favorite seasons come in order: fall, winter, spring, summer. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that gets me through summer is knowing that fall and winter are coming. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the summer in Texas. So it's gonna be hot. But anyway, let's catch up on some news items. We've missed a lot in the last few months, but we'll try to keep it recent with the news stories. I think
number 1.
Over the last few days, as information started to point towards this individual, we started some surveillance. We were able to get some discarded DNA, and we were able to confirm what we thought we already knew, that we had our man. And yesterday afternoon, in a perfectly executed arrest, my detectives arrested James Joseph D'Angelo, 72 years old, living in Citrus Heights.
The first one is the Golden Gate killer has been caught. East Area Rapist is also his name. He's got a lot of nicknames. And so what I found was interesting, of course, is that they used DNA to pinpoint him. And technically it was a cold case file, but they kept on working on it, trying to get it. And so and so actually had a break in the case. And so from what I could gather is that they used a free account on on your ancestry, tracking your family tree and stuff like that. And so they had samples, DNA samples from his past, from past cases. And so like a relative of the Golden Gate Killer put up their DNA and it was a close match. That's how I read it.
That's kind of the story they told at the outset. It turns out it's a little more complicated, which is kind of a good thing. So they actually thought that some guy in Oregon was the killer briefly, because he also had a DNA match, or his relatives had a DNA match. They went as far as getting a warrant for it, and he was like, "You can have my DNA. I didn't do it." Yeah. and he didn't. So that was good. It's just, it's interesting to me. I have. At some point for work, we were doing this bone marrow transplant thing. So I gave my DNA, and then a few years later, my mother was like, "Let's do this ancestry thing." And so I was like, well, I've already given away my DNA. Okay, let's do this thing. I went back when you brought up the topic to see what Ancestry's privacy policy was. And there's definitely something in there where, yes, under a warrant or a subpoena, we will give up the data. Yeah. It doesn't sound like it's as easy as we have this DNA, please match it for us for like every case in the universe. The other thing that's crazy about it, though, is that, as you noted, it was a relative. And that's really kind of the key to this. We've had a lot with social media lately, and people tracking you on social media. And one of the interesting bits I saw in that was that if we know what enough of your friends think, we can guess what you think with remarkable accuracy. Right. And with DNA, we don't have to have your DNA. As long as, 5 of your relatives have put in DNA and they're sort of vaguely close to you, we can put the pieces together. That's new and different and weird.
Well, I don't think that's too different. They've done a lot of, I forgot the name of the documentary. I have to go look it up, but it was just the they've traced the origins of mankind, from taking just a ton of DNA samples from a lot of people, a lot of continents and a lot of countries, and just like, oh, this is probably where things happen. Like, and I mean, you get your 23andMe, report, and it just tells you like where you came from. So I don't know. It's not terribly shocking to me that.
Well, the part that's interesting to me from the police perspective is that it used to be, like fingerprints. Your brother's fingerprints wouldn't look like your fingerprints, right. Or there were these connections, but they wouldn't add up. With the DNA thing, even if it's like your fairly distant relatives, it's gotten a little more searchable.
Yeah.
Before they could definitely match DNA if they had your DNA and DNA from the scene.
Right.
But now it's a broader. It's not Google for DNA, but it's
getting closer.
Something out there.
Yeah, it's like a fuzzy search, I guess, for it. So that's what you're saying. It's like, so instead of having but you would still need, for a court case, you still need to have like the DNA to match up with the person that's sitting in front of them. Like, but just for detective work, though.
Yeah.
For detective work, it's like if we get the right family or relative and get a close match. Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of the future we're living in. With like, we don't need to know everything about you, but if we have enough information, we can make a really good case of what you're thinking about.
Yeah. So they don't have his DNA yet. They haven't confirmed all of these things, and obviously he hasn't been convicted.
Really? Because in the initial reporting, they said that they had like a sample that was disposed of, like he got rid of it somehow, which made me think of they went through his trash.
That is totally possible. Yeah. The thing that I saw was that they were still fighting getting a real DNA sample from him, like a blood sample or I guess a spit sample. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the gold standard is in court. No. The thrown away things is like also got a great history in fingerprints too. Right. So fingerprints, but
I mean, there's a case in I think Portland, Oregon, or I think it's Portland. It could be Seattle, but I think it's Portland, where like there was a case where like if trash is put on the sidewalk, then it's fair game, right? So people can go spelunking in it, and so a local TV newspaper journalist said, like, okay, cool. So they went spelunking all the city commissioners or city officials to pass that law. And they're like, okay, cool. Can you explain this to me? Can you explain this? Like, why I have this receipt for this thing? And they were like, not terribly amused by the fact that they legally came about their discarded items. And so basically, like, so like if they think someone is a suspect, if you discard things you leave it outside your home, and there's plenty of DNA probably floating around there for some reason or another, you can get that. I mean, even that was like, I remember seeing like an old, I think it was an old unsolved mystery where like they just like a detective just got a cigarette butt from a suspect and just pulled that in and he just like discarded it on the ground or something like that. So, but yeah, so and we're all shedding DNA all the time. So there you go. So
yes, we are.
So there you go. So no hiding from, I don't know, whatever we're hiding from. So cool. So that's an uplifting case issue to talk about there. So let's move on to the next one, which is
number 2.
A little more technology, like not more technology, but a little bit more, I guess, consumer oriented. Is the Apple is done making routers, which makes sense because they haven't really done any major updates to the routing, like time capsule and all that in a while. But I remember when they entered the market, they like desperately like. I was trying to get my Linksys writer to work with my new MacBook and get it working with the printer and everything. It just wasn't working out, and I just spent the extra money to get an Apple product because they cost a bit more, and just the ease of setup to get my computer running and stuff like that. So I've never looked back at getting another product.
I started with it at my parents' house because I was looking for something with ease of use, and they had Macs, and it all made sense.
Yeah.
And then I actually wrote a piece at one point because I was going through a router every 12 months. They were like made out of Kleenex or something.
Yeah.
They'd set up, I'd go through all the work to do it. And then like 12 months later, I'd have signal in my office and no place else because just something wasn't happy over time.
Yeah.
And, my parents' router trucked along for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And so about 4 years into that, I was like, okay, I give up. Let's go buy an airport.
Yeah.
And it was the most stable piece of my network infrastructure until about 6 months ago when I finally replaced it. Partly because I knew Apple wasn't updating anything to do with them. Partly because it was doing weird things. It was showing like yellow flashing lights for no apparent reason. So they can give up the ghost. But the other thing that I was thinking about this, and I bought one of the iMacs with like the lampstand look to it. I can't remember. It looks like the Pixar lamp, but it wasn't the original candy colored iMac, but it wasn't the, yeah. And, I could have put an airport card in that, and I would have had to buy like all of these things to make it work at that point. And I just was like, I have Ethernet. I'm not doing this. But when they first did that, like that iMac and one of the, I can't remember if it was a MacBook at that point or if it was still called something else, they were like the only things you could do that with. The standards were still kind of being developed. Apple really saw this kind of wireless future ahead of us where we didn't want to like plug our, not yet existing phone into an Ethernet jack. It was one of those like big steps that made other things possible.
Right.
And now everything's possible anyway, so I guess we just don't need it.
I think they needed to have a great router to make their new products work. And so they need a kind of seamless experience. And that was on the market, and I haven't looked at the market elsewhere. Apparently, Apple stores are selling a non-Apple router in their Apple stores now, and everything's a mesh now. And so I was waiting for Apple to come out with a mesh product that would
right.
a mesh time capsule would be really sweet right now. But yeah, they didn't. They decided to give it the ghost, which I feel like there's some comments about this on the internet. Believe it or not. People are opinionated on the internet, but
about Apple?
Yeah, I know. I just feel like for a company that has wanted to own the experience or so good at being focusing on having a user experience that is exceptional, making sure people get up and running on the internet, I think is very key to that. And you still have to deal with Time Warner now, Spectrum,
right.
AT&T, Fios, and all this other stuff. Like, Google Fiber is here. I switched to Google Fiber and I'm not looking back if I can help it. Hopefully I don't, knock on wood, I don't have to relocate anywhere. That doesn't have Google Fiber. But even then, just to be able to plug and play as well as you could, I feel like that's very critical to having your iPad or your Apple product or Apple, your phone work, maybe you go into other devices. So I feel like it's really essential to have a really great, up and running with your internet, with wireless. And so, I don't know, maybe the kids these days don't need a laptop or a desktop experience. But, I feel like you definitely don't want to be on your, data plan all the time when you're at home. So.
Yeah, I actually, the weird thing is I find people who are perfectly happy to be on their data plan at home.
Yeah.
Like the extra cost of that is less than the annoyance of maintaining the router, and dealing with my cable company who won't let me just have plain internet and wants to send me new things every week. So I can kind of see their point. The main thing though, on Apple, yes, you can get other routers. Their interfaces have improved. They may not look Mac-like, but they're way better than they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're just focusing more and more on the phone experience.
Yeah.
And, I think the router shows that they're even assuming that you're just going to have signal and not have to think about it.
Right.
So it's just kind of funny thinking about the early days of the iPhone and problems with AT&T, but I guess we're past that now. So
yeah, I think I switched from, I was grandfathered in with AT&T on the unlimited data plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I've switched over just recently. I thought that you would have to there's no way I could get off AT&T because I didn't want to get rid of that unlimited data plan. But now, fast forward to the future, other providers have unlimited data plans on par, mm-hmm. with AT&T's data plan, and so I've been very happy with my other provider, and it's just been been great. I've got a lot more features now, and it was as painful as I thought it was going to be to transfer.
Yeah, I seem to remember you had some kind of crazy multi-office madness.
Yeah, so like I've being an Apple ecosystem, disciple, I have all these devices, and I'm like, I'm going to like rush into this new provider experience. And so the customer support person just assumed I had one phone and then I wasn't hearing my entire spiel because I didn't fit into their nice preformed script. And so I went up to a couple levels of support that I was not expecting, and took a week to go through that. So, but other than that, other providers. So there's still pain points is what I'm trying to say, like to try to get up and running. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm become a unique case where like I had multiple devices, but like I still, if Apple's pushing us more into a tablet arena, or maybe that's where millennials or next future generations are going, and desktops become this luxury experience, I just, I don't know. It just seems like a weird, I'm not sure where their focus is. And, and I don't, they don't really ask me for my opinion about that. So, but,
yeah, I was all ready to go in on a big Mac Pro at one point, and then they released the new one, and it was such a disappointment that I completely stopped and did other things. Actually, I think I bought a woodworking workbench at that point with the money. But I mean, I've always had a mix. Like I've bounced back and forth between Windows and Mac. I have an Android phone. I have an iPad in the other room. Yeah. So yeah, it's. I had the Apple router. I didn't really need the Apple router. This Asus thing is doing okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the other fun thing that I see with Apple is that, because Apple has infinite money, people are like, well, why can't they support my favorite product anymore?
Right.
I think they're busy building like money counting machines or something, but that's, Well, I'm very curious. They've announced they're going to do new things with the Mac Pro, and I'd love to see what kind of happens there. Everybody I know wants a new Mac Mini, and that just hasn't happened in forever. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're having troubles with, and also to go back to having unlimited money, why aren't they supporting my products? I was like, they have billions of dollars, and my thing is like, take $1 billion, just shave it off, and just invest that into maps, because their map app needs the work.
Still, yes.
Yeah, I think it was announced like they have mapping machines like cars, stuff like that. They've mapped extensively 40 states of the United States. I'm like, well, that's great. like I think Alaska and Hawaii have been updated to the Constitution of the United States since then. So you may want to get the last 10 in there. So
yes, yes. I mean, the other thing that I've always wondered, actually, I should say, I was like, when I was in Salt Lake City a couple of weeks ago, my Mac was stuck in safe boot mode. And I was amazed that Safari worked as well as it did. I think Apple has a detect if it's in safe boot mode, but nothing else really worked. Yeah. Terminal did. I don't know. It's like fit and finish, or I start thinking that like everything is starting to remind me of iTunes level of frustration.
Oh, yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah, they've tried to slim down iTunes. I'm not sure how you go about fixing the iTunes problem, but that's just another thing right there. So, but yeah, like there's like I go to iTunes to buy movies or music and stuff like that too. So one thing I do want to say something positive about Apple is that I experimented and I still am on their Apple Music subscription, and I just love, I'm as an Apple ecosystem user, as I've said before, just be able to find music, see it, download it, and move on with my life without having to buy it or like think about buying and purchasing, and just trying music. And and I've had Spotify and I've had all these other accounts, but to be able to find music easily, that's great. Now the hard part is I want to throw this music to other speakers in my house, and that's just like not happening. And there's no way I'm buying a HomePod for like $400. There's like no way that's happening. On any platform. I'm sure it's a great speaker, home speaker, but there's no way. Like I don't really see that happening. So
Look, I'm the strange guy who goes the other way. Like when I got that iMac I was talking about earlier, I got all excited about iTunes. I ripped, like every CD I had in the house then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've ripped almost everything else I've bought. That's how I buy music, because I'm weird. But, everything was going to this old iPod, and it finally gave up the ghost, and it's now my daughter's toy, and she loves it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. And I've got to decide, all my music's in iTunes, but I don't know. Do I really want to buy this new? Anyway, We'll see. I'll keep you posted.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I wish they sell the iPod Classic. That'd be great.
Number 3.
In time, you will know what it's like to lose. To feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail all the same. Dread it. Run from it. Destiny still arrives.
Evacuate the city. Engage all defenses. And get this man a shield.
Avengers Infinity War has made over $1 billion at the box office, international box office. So I'm going to assume that you've seen Avengers Infinity War, Simon, because everyone else seems to have.
I have not seen it, but it's okay.
That's all right.
The only movie I've seen that's even close to it was Black Panther, which was completely awesome and great.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I think I saw the original. I think we saw the Avengers. It didn't make any sense to me at the time, and I'm not really worried about it. Right. You're welcome to go ahead with all the spoilers you want.
No, I don't want to do that. No, I was just
No,
it's okay. I think Thanos would have me killed. So but yeah, so it's a great movie for what it is. I mean, it's like a crossover movie in the genre of crossover comic books. We've seen it with Captain America: Civil War. We've seen they've always with Thor and needing help, and with his movies having other characters in there. So it's pretty great movie. It's it's not going to be able to stand on its own, I don't think, too much, but because you need to have done the homework and watched all the 18 movies beforehand, not all of them, but most of them. And so yeah, and for all those moving pieces and all those moving characters, it does a really good job. Now, is it going to be a great movie? No, it's going to be the best summer blockbuster ever is what it's going to be. And that's in a different genre, I think, of movie than. So one time I read a review, someone dissed The Matrix, and when it came out, I was like, I don't think you know what The Matrix is, because that Matrix changed everything about science fiction movies and what can and can't be possible and how to tell that story. And so I was like,
we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one.
Oh, really?
One of my all-time least favorite movies.
Oh, Matrix. Oh man, I remember walking out of that movie theater and just whoa, things have changed. And then they made Matrix 2, and I was like, oh, well, never mind.
Well, yes, The Matrix 2 was my revenge. I set that up, and
well played, sir. Well played.
No, I didn't have to set it up, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that's been interesting to me watching the conversations around the Avengers, is it was obvious when I saw Black Panther that there were pieces I was missing because I didn't have the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. But they seem to have done an amazing job of weaving the rest of the story into that movie without requiring anyone to know anything at all about the other Avengers lines. The assassination story stood on its own. The weird scene at the end with Captain America recovering in this hut in Wakanda, you didn't need to know the details. You just had to know that it was something different.
Yeah.
I think it's really brave of them to put together movies that do require everyone to know all the parts. Mm-hmm. It's hard enough in a series where you can kind of assume people probably saw the first one before they saw the second one.
Right.
But to take something on this scale, I mean, this is epic. This is I don't think movies are opera exactly, but I think about these 3 nights of the Ring of Wagner and all, mm-hmm. and people go for 16 hours worth of opera. And I'm picturing, there are going to be movie theaters that are just going to be showing this set of movies.
Right.
Just like go in, stay as long as you can, come back for another round.
Right. Yeah.
So it's amazing to see that.
Yeah, I think in LA they're doing the marathon of all 18 movies right before the premiere of Infinity Wars. I was like, that was a ripe smelling movie theater, I believe.
I suspect so. And
yeah, I did do the marathon in Alamo Drafthouse for the first Avengers movie, and I think that was like about 4 or 5 movies.
Right.
And we did it was all day, and so I was just like, I suffered through the Hulk and everything, but like that was a long haul. But like I don't know how I could sit through 18 movies in a row. But
the Alamo Drafthouse would be the perfect place to do that.
Right.
I mean,
you don't get me wrong. It had nothing to do with Alamo Drafthouse. Just
well, you need a different kind of theater if you're going to be in there all day, all night. Yeah. Yeah,
and so, but I think like if we think about like the closest, it's like not even, I don't think it's even like in the neighborhood of blockbusters. They talk about what Marvel Studios is doing with the Marvel movies. It's like the previous blockbuster was, the Harry Potter series and Lord of the Rings series. Mm-hmm. Those are like, oh man, those are like the franchises like that, and those are amazing movies, but they seem like small in comparison to what Marvel Studios is doing, which is amazing because you think of the scope of like, 7, 8 movies with Harry Potter. And that's just amazing how they can do that. So
on the Harry Potter front, I'm very curious to see how far they go with the Fantastic Beasts and where to find them stuff.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I thought it was just going to be one movie, but there's, trailers for a second. There are hints of a third. That could also end up being, the 15 movie series, and Lord of the Rings ends up looking like the lightweight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. But also like, but potential like franchise killer, I think, is The Last Jedi, which is just like, which came out while I was recovering from surgery, and I missed out opening day to see the theater, and so my awesome girlfriend, as soon as I was stabilized, checked out of the hospital, as soon as I could, hobbled over to the movie theater for a day screening of Last Jedi, and I thought I was still on drugs for what I was seeing, because there was the spoilers alert. I mean, but it was just like,
right,
we're on the just Jedi Temple Island in beautiful like Ireland, and it was just like
porgs,
and like all of a sudden there's porgs, and I was like, there were no porgs and Force Awakens on this island. I think she would have come across that as like, okay, fine, but all of a sudden they just showed up, porgs, like, yeah, there's porgs. Like, you got a problem with that? Like, okay, like, okay, right, okay, sure, whatever. And then all of a sudden there's alien
caretakers.
There's caretakers. I'm like, where do these people come up? Like, this should have been introduced. And so I was like, am I the only one seeing this? Like on the screen? I was just like, what is going on? And then I just wasn't really happy with. It was just like they didn't take any. I can understand, like, if you don't want to do fan service or say a theory is right about, like, all the mysteries that were dropped for The Force Awakens, but just to have your answer to be every theory or mystery from the last movie be, nope, you're wrong, doesn't mean anything, we're moving on. That is just like, that's not how you build a franchise or keep it going.
That's why I love the movie.
Yeah, so, I just like, well, like, I don't know,
everything in the Star Wars universe has felt too small to me, and the reasons were way too tight.
Yeah,
it was like this one crazy family somehow inflicting madness on a galaxy,
right?
With help from a broad supporting cast, but like it. Well, I was talking about opera earlier. It felt like an opera plot all this time, and space opera and all that. I was excited about two things. One was that everything was wrong.
Right.
The other was the casino scene.
Really? You were excited by that?
Well, at first I didn't like it, but then I realized that, like, in a way, that flipped over all of these thoughts that I had about who they were going to find and what they were going to get. Mm-hmm. at the same time, it was just this completely insane chase through a bizarre casino. I was like distracted enough by the casino scene that I was like, yeah, this really should be Lando, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
But who is this Benicio del Toro guy who's kind of weird and stuff? But the casino has me thinking a lot more about kind of the whole Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, lots of spoilers here, of course. He sells them out, but on the way to selling them out, he explains how everyone else has already sold them out.
Right.
You know, this is the people who made the X-Wing. These are the people who made the TIE fighters. Guess what? Same people. So there was a lot there that I liked. I think, though, that the most important problem with the movie is that it didn't have the deleted scene where Luke basically pranks Rey. And that is so weird and so, like, I think if they'd included it, people probably would have been furious. But I really like seeing that. I love seeing,
like, almost every deleted scene I feel like should have been in the movie, because that scene shows a lesson being taught to Rey, which is just like, she just shows up, moves some rocks. She shows up knowing how to move rocks. Right. She leaves moving rocks, right? And like, and she even says like, hey, all I know about the Force is I move some rocks. I'm like, well, from what I gather, you just know how to walk into a pit and have like a fantasy like vibe or whatever, which is like sort of what they did in Empire Strikes Back. But even then, it was just like, you know, there was still, I felt like there's Luke loosening his grip, like not being an old fuddy-duddy in the mud about it, like, and, you know, watch my language. But it's just like, he's like, hey, I was trying to tell you something and you went off, and wow, I had a good laugh about that. Like, and so, and that kind of helped me not be upset by these caretaker aliens, you know, because they're like, hey, this is like the aliens who are, they know what they're doing. They're in this world. They don't feel like they're just tacked on like
it
porgs.
Gave a whole lot more to the caretakers.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the porgs were basically made for my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the story about, you know, there were these puffins and they couldn't make the puffins move and all of that kind of stuff. And then they went crazy with them. My kids are slowly collecting porgs. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But I felt like the movie, it was just like, there's so much weight. The movie just didn't flow for me. I was just like, it's a long movie to begin with.
It is a very long movie.
I mean, the casino thing is like a half hour. And I was like, wow, if you cut the casino thing out, this is not a bad, you know, time wise for the movie. And so, and then you check out the deleted scenes. I'm like, wow, there's almost characters here I care about. You know, it's just like, wow, this is amazing. And
right.
So I just felt like, I don't know what happened, you know, and killing Luke at the end just made me as a fan who, like, then I had to go process, like, okay, the only scenes where I see Luke kicking butt is when he rescues Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt. Yeah, that's the only part I have him like being pretty awesome with a lightsaber, because like we had the prequels, a lot of lightsaber reveals, but like if you look at like, okay, what footage do we have of Luke being good? And granted, I know he's an old guy now, but like even the lightsaber battle at the end, he's dodging lightsabers, right? He's not actually fighting. So as a fan who grew up with I didn't really grow up with it, but like Return of the Jedi just hit me at the sweet spot when I was a kid. So just to have that, like, well, I want to have this like epic, maybe one last time with Luke, and to like, let's see him throw down, and then have it be a fake out.
Yeah, I saw the first three in theaters, and I was too young, honestly, to have seen the first one, but I did for some reason. You know, my friends were all about it. Everything was exciting. I had a really hard time watching it again later. Yeah. You know, I can see the genius of the original trilogy, but never really liked Luke or Han. So kind of basic problems. You know, Obi-Wan was sort of interesting, although why he was hiding on Tatooine under his real name, you know, these are just difficult questions. For me, well, honestly, my favorite Star Wars movie is Rogue One, and it has the most plausible ending. Yeah. So it's, you know, like that.
I thought Rogue One would be like the one that you would hate the most, because they have to go get files from a hard drive and from a civilization that has warp technologies, but they can't SSH.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't.
My mother's a librarian. What can I say? I like libraries. Rogue One has also got all kinds of difficult things to it, and I'm not sure that every decision they made was anywhere near the decision I would make. But in the end, it was the most satisfying to me. And sort of coming to The Last Jedi after that, and sort of saying, everybody dies, awesome! It kind of works. I don't know, it's different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, they spent like a gazillion amount of money to fix Rogue One because they had a war movie, from what I've gathered from and they have a war movie, and it's like, well, that's great if you put this out there so soon after relaunching Star Wars and not make a Star Wars feel movie to it, where you might like lose the audience. So they spent a lot of money to make the movie right, the fit right. And so when I'm sitting there, granted, just released from hospital, kind of out of my mind a little bit, and I'm just seeing this like thing just log on and on that looks like Star Wars. It just doesn't feel like it, and I'm like, and I was just like, I don't understand the, nothing rings true to me because, Finn gets saved by someone crashing into him that could have killed him and saying you can't sacrifice yourself because that's not what we do on our side, while their leader smashes in hyperspace to sacrifice herself for other people. I don't understand these things, so I don't know. I like contradictions. I'm totally fine with that. Yeah, I just did not get that. Whatever. So I was like, maybe they need to come up with a mission statement and read about that and be all on the same page.
Important question. Are you looking forward to Solo?
I bought tickets to Solo this morning at 3:00 this morning. So, yes, I am. I'm looking at Solo because I think the actor that is playing Lando is perfect. I forgot he stars in Atlanta. And he was in Community, and I wish I could have his name off the top of my tongue right now, but I don't. But like, I'm going to Solo to see a Lando movie. Is pretty much what I'm going to. Is what I'm seeing.
Lando deserves his own movie, really.
Exactly. Exactly. I think what they're doing with Solo is, since Solo died, spoiler alert, in Force Awakens, and I think they're kind of like merging it, maybe like doing a little Marvel thing where like they were kind of like in Rogue One where they're trying to like piece the thing together, piece a little bit more and make it more 360, I guess, coming together. But I don't know, we'll see. But but I think Star Wars shows how difficult it is to do something on this epic scale of Marvel Studios, to bring it back to what we talked about earlier, but also to show how far DC Universe has to go. And I'm a big DC fan. Like, I have a lot of these books right here.
Right.
DC archives of past comic books, and so I'm a big DC fan, and so totally pains me when they put out really bad movies like Justice League and Batman versus Superman, when they're just like should be shooting fish in a barrel in terms of making it work. But it just shows you how hard it is to make it work. But anyway, let's move on. We can talk about
Sure.
We almost had a Last Jedi podcast episode. But
yes,
I think we saved the world from not having that one. So, but the
other thing I should add is I haven't seen it again except for the deleted scenes since I saw it in the theaters. So I still need to go back and catch it up, and it's possible my opinion will change. Okay,
so I'm going to dig it up in the show notes. But there's someone who has a YouTube channel series, and he's going through Last Jedi and fixing it scene by scene, and he's actually just popping open Adobe Premiere, and he's like using the deleted scenes, and he's going through and fix it. Spoiler alert: his ending, Luke does not die. So, and I felt like, wow, that's like the way he does it is, I think, is pretty interesting. Also, Luke Skywalker doesn't throw his lightsaber over his shoulder. So he does pretty much everything all the fan stuff. Right. And I must admit, I'm eating it up. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, this is exactly this is great. This is total fan service. And I'm like, oh, and I feel bad for it, but at the same time, I'm enjoying it. Just like, yeah, like I like it, but no, like, yeah, but I totally get it, like, because Rian Johnson, like, yeah, we want someone who takes the franchise in a new place, and I think that's sort of what the Star Wars stories, like, Rogue One and hopefully Solo takes it, and I'm totally cool with that. And I'm also great. I love the Clone Wars, Rebels cartoon series. They're kind of like I'm a little too old for those, but I still like sometimes they have really good stories that cross, that really speak to adults. So
I'm too old for Lego Star Wars, but I'll admit seeing Darth Maul jumping around as a little Lego figure is highly entertaining.
Oh yeah, that's pretty awesome. But yeah, I will say I did buy my family members. We got together recently. I was able to get the Millennium Falcon Ultimate Collector's Connect.
Yes, I saw.
And so I have nieces and nephews who are into Legos, and so I was just like, here. We're all gonna be busy doing our own thing. Here's for the tween teenagers. Have a go at it while we adults go over here, or like the little kids can do something else. So you guys can do that. And so I would say as a Lego person, like I don't buy much Legos anymore, but the engineering that goes into the Millennium Falcon for Legos was amazing. I think it was just like they have like the designers are awesome. Like I feel like Lego designing is a job is what I took away from that. So that was pretty amazing. So, but yeah. And so we're filming this, we're recording this on May the 4th be with you too. So I feel like we have to, a little bit, pretty good. So, okay.
Number 4.
All right. Next story. You actually wrote a piece, turning off Google Analytics, and I thought that was really great. So this sort of on the heels of, we can probably merge this together with, I guess, Zuckerberg's comments to the Congress.
It's been a weird few months.
Yeah.
I mean, so the Google Analytics thing has been bugging me for, 2 years.
Yeah.
I still have blogs that I really started writing in 2003. They were pretty active until 2015 when I made an upgrade to Ubuntu that killed my blogging engine, and they've been static websites ever since. The glory of movable type is that even when it's dead, you still have everything looking alive, except the search box. And so I've been like chopping away at these things slowly ever since. At one point, like Google was downgrading everything that had form fields on it that weren't HTTPS. So all those dead search fields, they suddenly went away. Fortunately, those were only on like the home pages of my like 7 blog things. But, with GDPR coming up, with Facebook, with lots of other things, I just was like, I look at Google Analytics every 6 months to 2 years. And it's feeding this steady stream of information on my visitors to Google. And it's not like any of these are sites where I've built stuff around Google Analytics. I mean, I know people who've built basically their companies around Google Analytics. I don't expect them to yank it out anytime soon and start over.
Okay.
But, when you actually get into the Google Analytics interface, most of it is like, campaigns, and we're going to do this and evaluate how well this worked. And,
right.
These are static websites that have been sitting there for 10 years of, so, there were some interesting challenges I posted on Facebook, like how best should I remove this code from 5,000 odd pages?
Right.
Obviously, grep was the right answer, but I went with Sublime Text instead because it was just simpler.
Right.
So, it took 4 hours worth of work to make 5,100 replacements. And it was only that difficult because there were different sites with different codes, and it was not a big deal at all. Then I had to leave Google Analytics up for a while to make sure I'd actually cleaned everything out.
Right.
It was kind of fun watching the curves drop down to 0. It did give me a few false positives. Like I would go check the page that had been hit and there was nothing there. So I think people must have things in their cache that show up for a while afterwards. But last week I was like, okay, let's just unplug this thing and see what happens. So I put it all in Google's trash can, which takes 35 days to empty. So that's also kind of odd. But yeah, I mean, basically, I did it because I wasn't gaining any benefit from it while I was actually giving my users, more time to load the page, and they were being followed around by Google.
Right.
I haven't turned off everything Google. I still have Google Fonts on a couple of pages, though the privacy rules on Google Fonts are much tighter. They basically say we will not be using the rest of the Google tracking. Okay. We do, track IP addresses and that kind of stuff, but the Google Fonts rules are pretty comfortable. I learned today that apparently if you have Google Fonts on your page, because China has all Google properties blocked, you lose about 30 seconds at the initial load as it goes looking for your fonts. I'm going to have to figure out if I've set things up right so it can just render as serif without looking for the fonts. I mean, really, it's not that big a deal. The other thing is, Google's given me some other headaches. It turns out that if you run an email server, Google would really like you to use Gmail instead. So their documentation for how to send mail to Gmail customers is basically written for people running ISPs. And their dashboards don't even light up until you have 100 messages. So it was all kind of like, I'm trying to do you guys favors, but this isn't working. So let's just cut back as far as we can. I don't think I'm ever going to say I'm not sending mail to Gmail users, because that would basically be saying I'm not using email. But on the website, just didn't seem necessary. Yeah. The other thing is I have this bizarre cookie that I set. At some point, I decided it would be a great thing if my visitors could pick their style sheet, and it was like a small type, medium type, large type, where the large type went to this 17th century font, because I live in Dryden, and Dryden was a 16th century, 17th century poet. Why am I setting a cookie here? Why do I have this chunk of JavaScript? This doesn't make any sense. So my next project will just be to torch all of that, though it'll be a lot easier because that just calls an external script.
So you forgot to document your own code for yourself in the future as to why you did the cookie?
Yeah, I mean, I have an article about why I thought it was cool, but I'm just looking back at it and going, God, I was dumb. I mean, I wrote a book on cookies, and I obviously knew how to do all this stuff, so it seemed easy at the time. But there are these other ways to do that. Why did I go that route? Yeah. So anyway, I'm basically slowly rebuilding all of these things, and I don't know. I feel like I have a professional conflict because I spend so much of my workday telling people, these are courses about frameworks, and they'll help you use the frameworks, and you can do all of this great stuff in JavaScript. And oh, by the way, we have Google Analytics courses over here. I don't do the Google Analytics courses, but that's actually not even my decision. That was just the way it was set up when I got here. Yeah. It is, kind of a weird, tricky thing, but I'm kind of concluding if I can minimize people's exposure to spying, people's load time for my pages, people's burning their CPU cycles. Yeah. Summer's coming. Why do we need to heat everything up? Right. I don't know. Okay. It's overkill, but it's nice.
Yeah. Well, I think it's. Yeah, I was auditing one of our. I work for Freddy Masters, so auditing our new web performance course, and it was just amazing. One of the theories that the teacher talks about is. Steve Kenny says a typical web load now is about the same size as the old Doom game. So we're actually downloading Doom. If you think about it, over and over again, and I mean, is it bringing us that much joy? I'm not sure, but
they should just send it to us as a box of floppy disks.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, but it is amazing how big these things have gotten. Mm-hmm. Even I redid the front page of my website, and the HTML is totally lightweight, but I decided to have an image for every card. Yeah, and so even though they're tiny images, there's 46 of them, and so it all piles on.
Yeah, and so that's the thing I have the battle with is because I'm not a big fan of lazy loading images because if you have an image, I could say lazy load, you want a background property, something like that, where it's not content, but an image in line is content, and therefore you need to have it there. And then you have these pages which are some pages just have 50 images, and you're like, well, what you do? And I'm just like, I don't know, maybe not have a page with 50 images. I'm not really sure. But
good start. Yeah, I also kind of some of these things I wish were more built into the browser. I mean, like lazy loading seems like something that a browser could completely do. It knows what you're looking at. It knows where you are in the page.
Right.
And historically, some of them have lazy loaded.
Right.
But for some reason, we decided we had to take control of all of these things.
Right. Yeah. And like also, I don't know, which get off our lawn type of conversation we could be having, but I was dealing with Avengers UI, and I did not like it. It was just really confusing. It was just like, I wanted to go in there with user style sheets and say, put an icon next to these two menu navigations, because just give me an icon and I know exactly what I'm looking for, but they're totally two different, these two links mean two totally different things, but they're stacked right next to each other. And man, if I have not pressed that wrong link 100 times this week, it's really hard to train yourself away from these things. And the other piece of it is that I keep wondering how much of this kind of design is that somebody's copying an interface they had on a different system. Yeah.
So, it was a desktop app, we made it into a website, or it was a terminal application in 1970 running COBOL. And here it is. It looks great, doesn't it? Here's your table of all capital letters.
Yeah.
For all the massive distance, I mean, you know all the stuff that CSS can do. You know how all these things work.
Yeah.
We somehow don't use it very well. So
yeah, I've been finding it's the people who do UX, I find amazing that they can do it, but I feel the people who can convince their superiors to do UX are really amazing. So
that is like 90% of the challenge, I think.
Right. Which is like amazing. Like that's like the hardest part. And that's where I find that's where, like, after doing conferences about UX and content strategy, I think that's where the pain points are, where to convince people, like, just because you have something that looks cool doesn't mean it's useful. And, and that's just the hard part, really. It's just like, hey, it's okay to break what we got down and go in and fix it and test it out. And if it comes out that, hey, we have the right solution, that's awesome. But, I talked to, Rocket Surgery Made Easy, Steve Krug. Steve Krug, like Krug. Yeah. So is like, like one of the things I asked him is like, you do like one of the things he does is he does like on the spot Q&A analysis. He actually gets someone to come up and talk about the website, and he does a little UX testing. And I was like, wow, like that's working without a net. Are you ever going to, like, you worry that you do that you find like someone has a really great website. It's like, yeah, Chris, that's never going to happen. It's like, it's pretty much what he said. I did, like, paraphrasing a little bit, but like, yeah, there's always something that can be fixed.
Yes, there is. I mean, the thing that I'm actually really enjoying building websites again. It's kind of weird. I'm finding myself like volunteering to build them for the first time in a decade.
Why is that?
Basically because of CSS Grid.
Yeah.
So I can just make things work. I freaked out the other day. So I built the homepage of my site in CSS Grid over the holidays and made sure it worked in links and made sure that it downgraded fine. It's basically just a list when you look at it in a not grid context. But then I was like, I haven't tried Opera Mini. I should try Opera Mini. Nobody tries Opera Mini.
Yeah.
And everything worked. And it's like, even the rotation, even the stuff that's like specific to grid. Yeah. And I wrote Opera. If you upgraded, no answer, no nothing, no news, but it works. Yeah. So maybe it's real. I don't think grid is going to solve the need for better UX thought, but it might at least take some of the pain out of the rest and give people the time they need to do that thought.
Yeah,
I think be optimistic.
Just to do page layouts quickly and easily without having to worry about floats it's going to be the most amazing thing, I think.
And floats are even fun now that they're just floats and not the whole layout engine.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And then, but yeah, so I have a lot of issues too with other parts, but it's great. It's like Flexbox and CSS grids. I did have a conversation with someone. I've been working on this book for a long time, but about retrofitting. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping to have her on the show again, Emily Lewis. And I said, like, well, do you do work with CSS grids now. It's all the rage. I hear people love it. And it's like, no, she does a lot of retrofitting websites, and like, no, because I have very specific browser conditions, browsers to support, and I might be able to squeeze in Flexbox with a polyfill because of IE10, and above. So it's still like CSS Grid is awesome, but some people can still work in this like modern utopia.
If you're required to make it look the same on like IE8, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. But what I decided was much saner was just it looks okay on IE8. It doesn't look like the same thing. It just it's a workable website, and that I think is actually the unique piece. Like you can do it and you can have a fallback, and they don't look the same, but they both work.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. I think I'm trying to think about updating my website and taking it off of WordPress and just putting it into Jekyll, which no one like does anymore. That they all go someplace else. But
I was talking about movable type recently. Do not be ashamed. It's okay.
But I was just thinking about working with CSS Grid and Flexbox, and then if you don't support that, I'm to give you the print style sheet, sans page breaks or whatever. But like, just going to give you that, and so I don't have to, you'll still be able to see the content, and it just whatever. I don't really care.
That's actually something else I've been noticing lately is more people seem to be doing print style sheets. The only way that I know this is that when I print things, they look better than they used to, and they frequently don't look like they did on screen. So somebody's actually paying attention these days.
Yeah, well, like Smashing Magazine, Rachel Andrew, who's leading a charge, like she like print style sheets in 2018, which is like that is a very Rachel Andrews article to write. So I feel like that was amazing, and so we actually got discussing print style sheets with some colleagues about that, and I was like, I've been a big fan of print style sheets for a long time, and my tweet this week was print style sheets were the original like service worker for offline.
Yes,
marketing.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I worked for people who insisted on printing out all their email, but I know people who printed out large portions of the web too, so it's...
Yeah, you never know, man. Like, it's still a pretty good idea unless you're the government and you have catalogs of it. So...
Yes.
Because you never know if this might disappear. So, but, yeah, speaking of documenting and listening to everything on the web...
Number 5.
I got to mention this Zuckerberg in front of Congress, and... any thoughts about that at all? Or
mostly that Facebook has been apologizing for the last 10 years and not really getting any better. So, I mean, we talk there. I love the conversations I have on Facebook.
Yes.
I am, however, making a conscious effort first to move more of my stuff to other social networks. So like the article about Google Analytics was on LinkedIn. I work there, so that was kind of easy.
Right.
But I've also like revived my Twitter account. I was basically just like occasionally retweeting stuff once in a while. Now I'm retweeting a lot. No, I tweet once in a while too. I'm also looking into like the whole Mastodon alternative models.
Oh, really?
I've got and resetting my site over the holidays was kind of the first step. I'm not going to start movable type again. But I am going to get some kind of a local blogging engine going.
Nice.
I'm realizing how much of the stuff that I wrote for other people is disappearing into the ether because they aren't actually maintaining it.
Right.
So that irks me. I mean, with Facebook, I saw some things this week that actually made me happy. So like they're going to offer like options for clearing your history.
Yeah.
You can clear your cookies out of browser. You'll be able to clear your Facebook history, and that probably should ease some of the worst things. Mm-hmm. They still seem to be kind of ducking and weaving. I think there's too much money involved for them to give up the dark patterns.
Right. I mean, like the moment that I saw the tweets and everything on social media. Like the moment during his initial, I don't know if it was day 2 or day 1 of his talk, where like a congressperson was asked, how do you make your money? And he answered like, oh, we sell ads.
Mr. Zuckerberg, I remember well your first visit to Capitol Hill back in 2010. You spoke to the Senate Republican High-Tech Task Force, which I chair. You said back then that Facebook would always be free. Is that still your objective?
Senator, yes. There will always be a version of Facebook that is free. It is our mission to try to help connect everyone around the world and to bring the world closer together. In order to do that, we believe that we need to offer a service that everyone can afford, and we're committed to doing that.
Well, if so, how do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service?
Senator, we run ads.
I see. That's great.
And he smiled. He was a total robot the whole entire time, but he smiled like, hey, I got you. We sell ads, but like that wasn't really the he's not really saying the full story. That's like tip of the iceberg. Is like we sell ads by mining every freaking click and like and comment that you make and every message that you don't think is public to deliver specific ads to our advertisers so that they will come back and spend thousands of millions of dollars on us to deliver content that you've freely given up, to tell us who you are about that. And that's how we sell ads. And so, so he kind of like ducked and weave. But the thing is, like, it's a total farce. I thought, like, because you have Facebook who probably lobbies these congressmen and women and who don't know anything about Facebook or technology because they have junior staffers who handle all that stuff. And so they're probably asking questions that were written by their junior staff to ask Zuckerberg. And Zuckerberg probably hired elder PR consultants on how to answer them. So it was just this weird infinity loop going on of like this whole like dance, going off.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be curious, like the UK definitely wants to see Zuckerberg visit Parliament sometime soon. And
that should be awesome. That'd be great.
Some cranky comments. And the European Union is clearly not happy.
That's an SNL skit waiting to happen right there. Like, that's going to be awesome.
Yes.
Zuckerberg and UK Parliament.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I don't know where this goes, but I can't really see it being good for Facebook. The other thing that I wonder, I was just talking about Google earlier, and compared to Facebook, Google is, looking kind of shiny and happy. But all of Facebook's woes make people think more about Google. At least that's kind of how I wound up with this whole analytics question. So I think we're going to see the whole ecosystem change. I don't think Facebook and Google are going to go away.
No.
But I think there's going to be some really hard questions about business models that we're just raking in cash. And I hope they change. I'm not sure they will. That's why I'm looking into all these alternatives and distributing stuff across multiple places. But
yeah, like the independent web, like, Jeremy Keith promotes and Zelman promoted a while back. So just own your stuff. And even like, I think I mentioned this before, like, he used to work at South by, but like when the person who helped run it, he delivered keynotes I forgot, like I think a Rails conference or maybe in Austin. And he was like, own your own digital media, like put it on your website.
Right.
That you own and you run, and then you could share it to who knows whatever you feel comfortable with. But you can write a quick note and have it tweeted, have a photo posted on your website, and send it to Flickr and all other stuff like that too. But at least you own it.
That's where I want to be by the end of the year.
Yeah.
I've always had this website. I've had this server. It's still a server. Well, it's a virtual server, but I finally am getting back to like making it a suitable home for that, making it easy to post again.
Yeah.
I've gotten really lazy. All my photos go to Facebook because it's easy, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like we've had this conversation before. Like, we both want the open web, but we find ourselves talking a lot on Facebook.
Yes. Yes, let's talk about the open web on Facebook.
Yes, exactly. Like, this walled garden is pretty nice. What about the open web? It's pretty nice. But cool.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted as I finally get things.
Okay, awesome.
Installed.
Yeah, I think I need to make a challenge for myself to do the same this year. So, because I definitely want to make it easier for me to blog. Right. And I feel like logging into WordPress right now would be like too much work. So I don't know.
WordPress is sort of going through some major changes with this whole Gutenberg and other things. So it could be great. It might not be. I don't yet have an opinion. So
number 6.
The other thing that we mentioned though was the photos. And so like Flickr just got bought by SmugMug.
Did they get bought by SmugMug or did Flickr just like give it the ghost?
Well, it's hard to tell you. Smugmug has made some very, happy sounding statements, but what actually happens, I think we know how these things go.
Do you actually have a Smugmug account?
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, is it because we're not millennials or something, or I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think, like I was talking earlier about how I have I still have CDs and I rip them.
Right.
I keep all of my photos locally. I'm cursing Adobe Lightroom 5 because of many, many things at this point. Adobe is not really eager to have me keep things locally, so I'll have to figure out other options. Right. Flickr was what I used explicitly when I wanted to share stuff under a Creative Commons license, because they had that nice little metadata stuff for making that possible.
Yeah.
And I would use it to search stuff for Creative Commons so that I could, find images to use. And that everyone hadn't already seen on Wikipedia, I guess, is kind of the value there. So it was kind of a place for me to share stuff, but I know a lot of people who got much more serious about it and then felt really kind of endlessly disappointed for a decade or so. I would love to see the original vision live again. I'm not sure it will. I think, honestly, getting it out of the hands of Yahoo and its descendants is probably a good thing, even if it just dies. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we checked it out, and all it is just an announcement that it's happening, and they themselves said, we don't have anything really ready for you now, but check back soon. And I was like, well, that's not really
promising.
Not really great, man. You had a vision to buy or acquire Flickr, so right. What's your vision? So, yeah, and I just think Flickr deserves where it's gotten, but because there's Flickr was around when you still needed to get a digital camera that was solely a digital camera, and it was cool when iPhone happened because you can see the progress of people taking photos with just their iPhone and not needing to take a digital camera with them, and then people were like, oh, I need to take video, and people have the digital video recorder that was fit in their pocket, and then it came into iPhone sucked that up, and or Android phones or whatever, and Flickr is flickering, that's
right.
Was doing the same old thing. I'm like there's lots of stuff going on, and so I don't know.
Yeah, they were better at a lot of things, I think, than anybody else was, but those weren't the things that turned out to be what customers really jumped on. For me, it was the Creative Commons metadata, and that just doesn't happen on Facebook for some reason.
Yeah.
It's not a normal feature, even in Lightroom. I have to do weird plugins to make it label these things.
Wow.
I don't know. There was this moment, maybe 2005, 2006, when I felt like the web was kind of reopening for business, and there were all these cool things happening. But a lot of them just kind of went into deep freeze, and Flickr is maybe the best single icon of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel sad. I feel a little old for it, but I feel Flickr had potential, and then they realized they lost potential. They lost the lead. They still saw hey, we still have potential, and then they didn't make it happen. And so they've had the chances. And so I don't know what Smugmug is. So hopefully maybe next time we talk, one of us will actually have an account there. Yeah. We'll actually but I was but I feel like we just need to take a moment to hey.
Yes, we should. Yes. Think good thoughts about Flickr.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too. A lot of the same people went on to create Slack, which is a totally different thing. But
yeah, totally different thing. And I don't know how we got along without it. So it's weird. So I don't know. That's again, that goes to the whole wall garden, because I'm having conversations with people. I wish I could go back and look, and capture them. And maybe that's a good thing, or maybe it's a bad thing that I can't go back and search them online or whatever like that. So, but I don't know. But yeah, but I mean, but Slack is a whole different beast. Where I just can't believe the trajectory of Slack is amazing. Like the adoption I've never seen a tool before Slack where business adoption was steady and almost like a rocket.
Well, the thing that I mean, it's kind of funny to me because, in a sense, we've always had Slack. It was just called IRC or any of these 20 different things. But it's the first tool where people just like walked up to it and like there just wasn't a learning curve, at least for the basic stuff. Okay, I have to figure out where channels are, and it's annoying that I have multiple passwords. Yeah. But yeah, you're totally right about the rocket launch trajectory.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, I think that's it for this week. Where can people find you, Simon? What's going on? Like, what you're excited about these days?
Sure. I'm at simonstl.com, SIMONSTL.com. I'm happier saying that now that I've redesigned the website, so there's something vaguely tolerable there to look at. If you look at the bottom, there's even a piece on how I did it, because I actually like the way I did it this time. It's so weird. I'm also like that SIMONSTL thing on lots of social media, Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, that kind of stuff. I should add that I work for LinkedIn Learning, which is part of Microsoft. I don't think I said anything that was particularly excitingly Microsoftian or LinkedIn-y, but you never know. Yeah. And yeah, there'll be more exciting stuff the next time we talk, I'm sure.
Okay, awesome. Definitely. And Christopher Schmidt, you can find me on Twitter at Teleject. And subscribe to us on Non-Breaking Space for Apple Podcast needs. So, cool. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
Next time.